know, I thought I knew what I was going to say to start off today. Thought I had my greeting under control. I thought I was ready. I don't think anybody was ready for what's going on right now. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate you stopping on by and having some coffee with us. But right now, it's not such a good morning. Maybe for me as an individual, it is. Maybe for you as an individual, it is. It's a good morning. But for a lot of Americans, for a lot of people, for a lot of human beings who woke up today, it's not a good morning. For a lot of people, it hasn't been a good morning for a long time. It's been okay. It's been passable. It's been just something to get through. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. I am doing okay today. Actually, that's probably a really good jumping point. How am I doing? How am I doing? How are you doing? Our world is on fire right now. There are so many things going on. There is so much push. There is so much flack. There is so much anger. There is so much pain, sadness. The entirety of the human experience is absorbing a lot of emotion right now. And a lot of that emotion is kind of ugly. It's kind of really ugly. Now, I have to believe that somewhere within all of this, there is good. There absolutely is. But let's organize a little bit better. Let's compartmentalize. Let's get everything into a neat little package for what's going on today in the world. We, as a society, have pushed back against, have pushed down, have tried to put the anger and pain and sadness that a lot of people have felt into a tiny little box in a tiny little cage. And every once in a while, something will happen where that rage is unleashed, that pain is brought out and exposed. And for a lot of us, we ignored that pain was even there, that sadness was even there. We tried to tell ourselves that, oh, we've come so far. We've made a lot of changes. We've done all this. And when that rage busts out of that tiny little box, we tend to see a very common trope in American society with how the paradigm shifts around the conversation. You have one group, the group whose anger, whose sadness, whose rage has been pushed into the box, fighting for their life. You have another group who recognizes the pain, the sadness, the anger, and sympathizes with it and says, I see you. I see you, and I want to hear you. Then you have another group who says, there is no problem. What are you doing? Back in your box. Then you have another group that says, there is a problem, but you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. That's not the right way. The group of people that openly push back, that openly try to put down and diminish another human life, that group just doesn't jive with me. But that other group that tries to tell somebody how to feel about their pain, how to feel about what's going on, what's right, it's never a right way. Never has been. I mean, if we want to look at just America in general, it's it has a very long history of the wrong way. Now, of course, for those of you playing the home game, or if you haven't been paying attention recently, the wrong way is mass demonstrations. Notice I didn't say rioting and looting, because rioting and looting is not protest. Rioting and looting is a manifestation of the anger and the pain felt by a very large group of people. But by focusing on the anger and the pain that is lashing out, you're dismissing the problem. You are dismissing the feelings. I don't know if you've ever been in an abusive relationship before, but anytime somebody tries to tell you how to feel about something, there is a very, very hurt group in our country, and they have been in an abusive relationship with us. I say us, all of us, society, everything. We have contracts in place where we can all supposedly work together. There are expectations within this contract of how everything should be, how we're going to act, how you're going to act, how the people in power are going to act. And the contract, time and time again, is not upheld. And you have a group of people being told to deal with it, to just, take the scraps. If you beat this movement back into suppression, if you beat it back into its little box, if you tell people how to feel, how to act, how to express themselves, you're not fixing anything. In fact, you're just pushing the problem off somewhere further down the road. Now that's American right there. But I only wanted to take about 8 minutes this morning to discuss specifically this, and we've hit about that point. And the reason I only wanted to take 8 minutes to discuss this is because right now, people like me, we shouldn't be doing a lot of talking. We shouldn't be doing a lot of telling people how to feel or how to do anything. We should be doing a lot of listening, is what we should be doing. We should be doing a lot of keeping our hearts and our minds open and trying to communicate openly and being receptive to maybe the lens of experience that we view the world through is not the only lens of experience that a human being is capable of experiencing. Maybe, just maybe. Maybe the sun doesn't rise and set with how we think things are. So with that in mind, I want to jump more into what's going on with the human experience, not just the movements we're seeing right now. Social media has given us the ability to be instantly heard, to instantly put our ideas out there for everybody to see. And it's also given us the ability to very impersonally discuss, talk about, and generally interact with other human beings. And one thing that I found in particular in relation to what I've been seeing and things that I've been feeling and things that I've been doing myself is that when looking into social media with what people are talking about, what people are posting, and what I'm responding to, I find that there starts to become this blurry line that I'm crossing in which I'm no longer forwarding any kind of dialogue. I'm becoming incendiary. I'm becoming aggressive. I'm becoming a contrarian. And this is something that's very real to human beings in general. When you tell somebody that what they think is wrong, like just tell them, just like, oh, you are wrong about that. 9 times out of 10, they don't look at you and say, oh my gosh, you're right. You're right, I'm wrong about this. No, they dig their heels in and they present their side. Then if you proceed to tell them that they are stupid and ignorant and X, Y, Z and ABC all under the sun, I guarantee you they're not going to say, my gosh, you're right. They're going to dig their heels in even deeper. So what we're seeing right now, with all the things that we were talking about earlier, is you have people who generally want to be helpful, who generally want to have a dialogue. People like me. And what we need to remember is that whenever we're responding, whenever we're trying to have a discussion with somebody, we need to check our own emotions first. Because if you're trying to get somebody to see your viewpoint, if you're trying to, share your lens with someone, you are never going to get them to even entertain the idea of looking through your lens if you belittle them, if you put them down, and if you stonewall them. Now, that being said, there is a lot of heated language flying around right now, and I can tell you, it is hard. It is incredibly hard to remember to take a step back, especially because all these interactions are so impersonal. But we have to remember to take a step back. And anytime you're going to address something, anytime you're going to post something or respond to a post that somebody made, ask yourself this question. What I'm about to say, is it going to further my beliefs? Is it going to help a cause? Is it meant to incite or elicit an angry response? Is it knee-jerk? What is it? What are the words that you're putting down? What is the end goal? What is the lesson? What is the intent? Because if you don't think about the end game, the end goal, well, then you're not helping and you're hurting. And even if you think you're helping, without anticipating what your end goal is, you are creating further division. One of the things I've been seeing a lot of is, if you disagree with me, or, if you support this, or if you're in line with this, you need to unfriend me right now. That's it. I'm done with you. So that's it. We draw the line in the sand. We create an us versus them, and that's it. When we do that, nobody wins. The cause that you're fighting for doesn't win by drawing a line in the sand. I truly believe that there are very few human beings out there that are actually evil. Sociopathic tendencies, etc., etc. I think a lot of people are capable of being selfish to various degrees. And I think a lot of people just generally aren't super receptive to new ideas because it's tough. It's not just tough, it's uncomfortable. New ideas are uncomfortable. Things that don't fit with your narrative, things that don't fit with your lens, the way you view everything, are uncomfortable. They always have been. They always will be. If you want to grow, if you want to learn, if you want to be a decent person, you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to open You have to be willing to listen without just waiting for your turn to talk. So to the point, I don't believe that there are actually a lot of evil people in the world. I see a lot of people that I disagree with. I see a lot of friends that I disagree with. And I think maybe, just maybe, it might be time for us to stop focusing on those things that we're disagreeing on and actually focus on those overarching points that we do agree on, i.e., what are human rights? Are they being violated? If so, what's the solution moving forward? So if we focus on that, rather than what is or is not okay in your road to expression, what is or is not an appropriate response of force v force, if we stay away from the things that we can't agree on, and we start looking at the things that we can agree on, we'd probably find that there's actually some very common ground. But again, we draw lines in the sand. We tell people you're not worth the time and effort it is to have a dialogue. Let me ask you something. And this is more geared towards people who are parents and have kids. And if you don't, I want you to try and imagine back when you were a kid, when you were in school. And I want you to remember a subject or an idea or a concept that you had difficulty wrapping your head around, understanding, and really, gaining a grasp of. And for those of you who are parents, you probably see that a lot right now, especially with all the homeschooling that's going on. What are some of the concepts and ideas that are really tough for kids to wrap their heads around? Now, if they don't get it, if they can't see what you're trying to get them to see, do you tell them they're ignorant, they're dumb, and shut them down and try to get them, beat them into believing or wanting to see what you see? No, you don't do that. If you were a kid in a classroom and fractions were just really, really kicking your butt, and the teacher said, "Oh, you're just stupid. You're just never going to get it. I've explained it this way. I've explained it that way. You don't get it. You're dumb. You're never going to get it." What the crap is that? As an educator, and for those of you that don't know, I was a teacher for many years. I taught in a facility school with students who were court ordered there. It was a very tough, tough crowd. Every single one of them had ISPs and IEPs, a couple high functioning, a couple low functioning, whatever you want to call it. But not a single kid in there was incapable of grasping the concepts I was trying to teach. And any time I couldn't get them to grasp what I was trying to explain, that was not a shortcoming on their end. It was not their fault. If you can't get somebody to see your point, it's not their fault. It's your fault. And if you get so frustrated that you give up, that you draw a line in the sand, that you give them an ultimatum, that you ultimately become divisive, yeah, it is your fault. Because that is the accountability that everybody keeps thinking we have. But so much of it is lost. You are only ever responsible for the things you say and do and how you react to situations. Yes, some people, it's going to be incredibly hard to reach. But don't stop. Don't quit because it's tough, because it's uncomfortable. Isn't that what you're trying to get them to see in the first place? You want them to feel this discomfort, to see it, to listen. How are you going to do that if you're not listening? If you're not trying to think outside of the box? If you're not trying to bridge those areas of belief? I think that's what's been bumming me out the most. Because quite frankly, My heart hurts for what's going on in our country right now, in our society. But as a straight white male, I can never truly understand the pain that is being felt by a large demographic of our population. I can't. I don't have that lens of experience. I grew up with a good amount of privilege. I had my struggles, and they were my struggles. Not a single one of them was reflective of my economic status, skin color, or my orientation. But I've been getting really bummed out lately. Again, my heart hurts for what's going on, but that's not what's been bumming me out. It's the reactionary, incendiary language and emotion that I've been seeing coming from allies, coming from detractors, and coming from people who unfortunately probably are evil and part of the problem. So the next time you go to respond to something, I challenge you to ask yourself, what is the end goal for what I am about to say? That's it. Because if you don't have an end goal in sight, you are a dog chasing its tail. Sure, it's fun for a couple minutes, but A, it's never going to end. And B, everyone's going to get tired. You're not going to further your cause. You're not going to turn anybody to your side. You're not going to change any minds by being incendiary and not having an end goal. If you want to educate, you need to listen first. Yeah, some of the things you're going to hear, you don't want to hear. Some of the things you're going to hear probably are going to sound really freaking ignorant. But you can't respond with a drawn line in the sand. That doesn't work. It never works. It won't work. Now, a lot of this comes down to being very personal to me. I had to step away from everything that I was doing on social media Thursday, Friday, because I was starting to become that. I was starting to use incendiary language. I was starting to make personal attacks as I was trying to get somebody to see what I wanted them to see. And this person that I was attacking is a very, very dear old friend of mine. And we disagree on a lot of things. A lot of very hot button things, too. And I love having discussions even when I don't agree with the person, especially when I don't agree with the person, because it challenges me, it challenges my beliefs to A, be stronger in them, B, do more research and be more educated on my stances and my opinions, and C, sometimes you may see or find something that you didn't recognize before. And after I stepped away, after I took a little bit of time off, I shot a text message over to this person, and I apologized for my aggressive tone, for the way I was just coming at him. And I reminded him that I love him as a human being, as a brother. I love him. And at that moment, I realized I didn't even ask him how him and his family had been doing at the very start of this pandemic. Months ago, I didn't reach out to this person who I truly care about and ask, how are you doing? And yet here I am, throwing insults and questioning this person's intelligence when I didn't even have the decency to check in on them. So again, I know I've said it a couple times, but I want to say it again for those of you who are in the back. If you want to be part of the solution, you need to be willing to listen, and you need to stop drawing lines in the sand. On that note, with everything that is going on, if you want to be a white ally to the Black Lives Matter struggle, your job is to listen. Your job is to get involved with the groups that are already organized and doing these things. Your job isn't to make a political statement. Your job isn't to show that your brand supports and cares. I mean, that's great. You know, it's good to see that a lot of high quality name brands have come out. I mean, even the NFL finally had an official statement and said, you know, maybe taking a knee wasn't so bad. Maybe, just maybe, there was something we were missing there. It's nice to see that. But if you're just going to bark in the dark, if you're just going to do that, you're just showing yourself to be a virtue signaler. If you truly care about the cause, if you truly want to be a part of it, you need to listen, you need to vote, and you need to be a good citizen. That's all I'm going to say on that matter. Heavy stuff today, guys. I mean, it's been a heavy week. It's been a heavy few months. Kind of feels like every month we're leveling up in Jumanji. And it's moments like these, it's these times when you stare into the abyss and the abyss stares back, where a true opportunity for leadership, where a true opportunity for being a good human being starts to manifest itself. You know, this is our test right now. Every person's test, everyone on the planet. You can either be a good person right now, or you can be a crappy person. And don't get me wrong, you can be a crappy person fighting for a good cause. I've seen it. I've seen it. You can be a crappy person fighting for a crappy cause. I've seen that too. So at the end of the day, ask yourself how you want to remember how you were, what you did during these moments. Did you take time to reach out to your fellow human beings? Did you take time to build, foster, and tend to the garden of your relationships? Did you give in to anxiety and depression? Did you let the state of affairs carry your emotions away from you? Did you do nothing? Did you do something? What did you do? I know that my role in all of this is to be an educator and a unifier. Because that's just always who I've been. Always looking for the things that connect us to other people. Always looking for the ways in which we agree and we harmonize. That's why if you've ever been to one of my bigger parties that I throw, there tends to be a very eclectic grouping bunch of people. And if you look at the individuals who I consider close to me, who I hold close to me, again, very, very eclectic, very different walks of life, different personalities. Generally not people you'd imagine to be gathered up together in one grouping. But that's me. I'm a unifier. I bring people together, and I always try to look for the best in what's going on. And educate. Educate, educate, educate. I know a lot of the last few years, most of the education I've been doing is on movement, nutrition, physical health and well-being, mental health. And I love it. I love every minute of it because, being an educator or taking on an educator role or trying to educate someone in something, you have to be passionate about it or you won't last long. So it gives me something to be passionate about. And it reminds me how passionate I am about the things that I do, the things that I enjoy doing. And it also forces me to learn more about these things so that way I have more things to teach or I have better things to teach. And every once in a while you come across something that challenges the way you were doing something, it challenges the way you were thinking about something. And suddenly you've got some new lessons to teach. You've got some new things to explore, some new ideas to look into. So again, ask yourself, 5 years from now, how do you want to remember what you were doing right now? June 2020, July 2020, August 2020. Now I'm moving forward, not backwards, because, well, that's already happened. Can't move back. You can only move forward. So if you watched this today and you weren't sure where you stood, or if you watched this today and it challenged something you believed in, or if you watched this today and it makes you want to be better, or gives you ideas on how you can be better, don't judge yourself by yesterday. Don't judge yourself by 2 years ago, 10 years ago. Every human being on this planet has the ability and the right to change. When you are presented with new information, when you are presented with new ideas or new ways of doing things, you are allowed to change. That doesn't make you a hypocrite. Hypocrisy is not changing. Hypocrisy is holding two different stances on the same side of a coin. That is different. That's not change. That's not growth. Change and growth is not hypocrisy. If you were a staunch supporter of something one day, and suddenly, as curtains have been peeled back, you're starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, that thing I was supporting isn't good for me, and maybe, just maybe, it isn't good for a lot of people. It's okay to change. It's okay to change your mind. And that is the real message that I'm trying to convey, overarching all of what we talked about today. Don't draw lines in the sand. Don't stonewall people. Don't deny anyone their right and ability to change. Be uncomfortable. Have conversations. Have dialogues. And be ready to be frustrated. But don't let that frustration get to the best of you. Don't let that frustration put up walls. We're about tearing walls down here. All walls. Whew. All right, guys. We're going to wrap it up there because I could probably drone on for hours and hours and hours and just keep beating this horse dead. You know where I stand. You know where you stand. Talk, change, discuss. Just don't be a crappy human being. Don't deny somebody's right to exist. And don't deny yourself the opportunity to educate somebody because it's tough. I hope you guys have a really great rest of your Saturday. And I hope that we continue moving forward together, everyone. And I hope, if nothing else, that what's been going on in 2020 helps you become a better person in the long run. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Smiles and thanks to you as well. All right, guys, if you have any questions, potentially opening myself up here to some real crazy stuff. But if you have questions, any questions, health, fitness, nutrition, or anything we've been talking about today, please feel free to throw them in. Let's open that dialogue that I was just so adamant about talking about. But if not, that's okay too. That's okay too. All right, guys. Go out there today. Be the best version of yourself you can possibly be. Cheers.